my go-to meteorologist, and I'm so grateful that I can reach out to you when I have any questions, from conspiracy theories to what is the weather going to be like in Atlanta, even though you live in Texas. So thank you for joining us. How are you?
No, of course. Thank you so much for having me. We're great. We're warming up where I am in Texas, but getting ready for the next round. So,
Getting ready for the next round. So I texted you it was last week, we had the massive storm across the Northeast. We had record cold temperatures where I am in the South. We saw photos of flurries in Florida. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also maybe going to be snow as far south as Tampa Bay. So my question to you is, I have an algorithm that's telling me that maybe the weather has something to do with the government. And I'm thinking to myself, A, I need to change my algorithm, or B, there's something to it. Can you save me in times like this?
can I save you in times like this? Man, this is such a hard question. And honestly, Elizabeth, you're not the first person to ask me this. This is a very common topic that comes up, especially when you're a meteorologist. Everybody wants to know because a lot of people are shown these videos and having to do with geoengineering. And that means altering the weather on a macro scale. So altering it on a very large scale. So obviously, wouldn't it be really cool to create rain in times of drought, whatnot? But obviously, there are ramifications on the other end. Are they actually able to do it? Maybe, maybe not. But cloud seeding, geoengineering on a micro scale, or cloud seeding is very real. And that is something that takes place. And not just in the States, but it takes place all over the country. Because as we continue to grow, as the world continues to grow, the need for food becomes much greater, right? The need for rain to grow that food becomes much greater. So cloud seeding, I think, was created with good intent. So there is going to always have the possibility of rain if we need it for crops and whatnot to feed the people of this growing world. But yeah, so I think we're just on the beginning stages of that. So on a micro scale, yes, I can speak to like cloud seeding does happen. But
Right.
on a macro scale, I know there's a lot of stuff out there that people want to do, but I don't know the extent of what's happening.
Okay, so
I'm not
separating fact from fiction, cloud seeding is real. So for someone at home who might be listening and they say, I don't even know what that is, let's back up, because it can be introduced in conspiracy theories online, but let's just get down to the basics. What is it?
Sure. So there's a couple different types. So if a cloud is really cold, essentially what they're doing is a plane's going through, or not always a plane, it can happen at a surface level also if the surface is elevated enough. They're injecting silver iodide into a cloud, and that kind of acts like a nucleus, or you could say like a landing pad for particles to kind of land on in the cloud. So this cloud, it's called super cool. They're super cool droplets, meaning that they're anywhere from 0 to 32 degrees. They're below freezing, but the particle doesn't have anything to condense to. So that's what the silver iodide acts as. It condenses all the water, and then the water starts building on this landing pad of silver iodide, and then it gets heavy enough to eventually create snow or ice, and then it falls out. But you can also do it in a warm cloud, and that's typically done with salt. And you can create rain that way. That salt acts as a nucleus or a landing pad, and then all the water droplets start collecting on it, and you have a rain cloud.
You could have people who are hearing this for the first time. So,
Okay.
when was it introduced? Is it used often? Is it only used in Texas? Like you said, is it used all over, really, probably the globe?
Yes, of course. I honestly don't know when it was introduced. I mean, I feel like I learned about it, I don't know, probably a while back, maybe 10 years ago, but I'm also a meteorologist and in that realm. I know it's widely used in China for crops. I know it's used in the UAE. I know it's used in Saudi, and I know it's used here in the States. And yes, that's pretty much
I'm gonna
that's
look
what
it
I
up
got.
while you're, because I'm gonna say when was it first used? Okay. Now, what are the downfalls? And while you do that, I'm just gonna do a quick Google search to see exactly when it was first introduced.
Sure. Um, downfalls of cloud seeding are I just don't think, like I said, I don't know. This isn't my bread and butter. I'm not in the cloud seeding world, but I would like to think that anytime energy is put into something, energy is also put out. So
Yep.
if we're creating this rainstorm, I mean, it's going to have to come out somewhere else. And if someone might say, well, yes, that's the rain coming out of the cloud, but it's kind of like the ripple effect. Have you ever heard of how, like, a butterfly flaps its wing off the coast of Africa? That can create a hurricane. So imagine what us creating a storm is doing in the large scheme of things. Is it affecting the larger scale or the larger weather patterns? Possibly.
And while you were talking, I looked, so it was invented back in the 40s. And like you're saying, if it's invented back in the 40s and maybe just, we're doing it, or maybe just some places in Asia are doing it. And then, as you said, there's a ripple effect. So if countries across the globe are doing it, then maybe there is only our imagination that we can, where maybe that's where some of these conspiracy theories are coming from. Is it related to, again, another conspiracy theory, the contrails? I think I have my phone pulled up here. If people are like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh god, it's the aliens, and these are, oh, they're watching us." What are they? Tell me more.
Well, contrails is short for condensation trail. So anytime that you're burning fuel, it's going to combust, right? And that is releasing H2O, that's releasing C2O. And so when you're releasing, well, carbon dioxide or water into the atmosphere, and if you're up high enough where the temperatures are cold, that water is going to condense, it's going to freeze. So essentially, as that water or whatever is coming out of the engine is being released into the atmosphere, it's freezing. And some people are like, well, how come sometimes they last way longer and they drift? Well, that's because it's colder up there and the upper level winds are carrying it further along. Like, it's so weather dependent because that column of air to be that temperature. I mean, there is a lot of science going in behind this. So sometimes, yes, people look up and like, well, I'm not seeing any trails today, because they might say contrail if they think it's a condensation trail, or some people might say it's a chemtrail with chemicals and whatnot. But for them to not be there, it's just because it's not warm enough for anything to condense. So
Like, do you giggle a little bit when, because your brain goes straight to science?
yes.
And luckily, I have resources such as you where and obviously, I don't really believe anything that I read on social media unless it's a sourdough recipe. But I love it. I mean, I'm a consumer and I love all of the theories, and maybe there are aliens and it's fantastic. But what is really the most outrageous claim that you're hearing recently?
Oh man,
That someone says, "Is this real?" Or
my algorithm shows me some really weird things. So I I don't know, but weather wise, I don't know. I think back to the chemtrails when people are saying like they're spraying stuff to make us like slowly lose our minds. And I don't know. I have a hard time believing that.
we're
Wait,
losing
sorry, say that again?
we're losing our minds without any chemicals. Well,
Exactly. Here I am.
yeah.
Uh, but I think for someone to spray a pharmaceutical in the sky and for it to not dilute on the way down in the atmosphere and still affect us, and for someone to know how much is actually going to affect us on the way down, where it's going to land, that's where I kind of like, I don't know about that. So, I mean, that's what I think.
Right, right, right. Okay, so when people, let's just say you have a girlfriend who lives in Tampa Bay and she's predicted to get a bunch of snow.
Great.
Would you say to her, weather is cyclical and this may have happened 150 years ago?
Yes, I would, because I feel like right now we're just so, I don't know if this is right, like privy to information. Like, we have our phone in front of us. Like in 1993, a massive storm came through, and that front was so much larger than what we're dealing with now. It stretched all the way from Canada down to Honduras, and there were over 300 deaths. And so that storm was big. That was huge. But maybe it wasn't as big of a deal back then because people didn't have a phone in front of their face constantly showing them, telling them to get ready. I mean, it's beautiful that we do have access to all this information. So we are able to warn people, say, hey, heads up, this is coming. But I think reading that constantly leading up to everything, there's a lot of buildup, correct? And so when it happens, everyone's kind of high stakes and on red alert. But back in 1993, when not everyone had a phone or iPhones, were they a thing then? I don't even know. Um, you're not seeing it all the time leading up. And if you're over on the West Coast or in the central portion of the country where this wasn't affecting you, it's just kind of, you're not even dealing with it almost.
Yeah.
So I think that some of this stuff has happened before. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say the big CC, climate change, which is a funny word for it. It really should be called climate shift because the climate's always changing. It's a very intricate thing. What we're looking at is just almost like an escalated temperature. Everything's warmer. So the air does hold more water. But at the same time, I think we see it all so much more now with the phone.
Well, and it's exaggerated too. And everything that we're reading about, it's almost as if you don't know what to believe. And we don't have all the data for how long the planet has been around. So is the climate shifting? Yeah, of course it's shifting, right? And so I am very intrigued by that conversation. What are you witnessing? Because you're a meteorologist, you left the TV business, but as a mom, you're balancing a new career and it has all of the things really in one, right? You're working with these different companies. So tell me more about what you're doing.
So I primarily work in the commodity space and we deal with different things. We deal with fruits, vegetables, corn, soybeans. We also deal with natural gas, anything that's in the derivatives market. So it's essentially a market that's weather dependent. So anything that can be traded based on something else. And I also deal with a lot of like risk mitigation in areas where people are looking at possibly planning or and the amount of water that's available to an area. So being in TV and forecasting was great. I absolutely loved it, but this has just opened a whole new world of weather and meteorology and the need for water as I'm continuing. That's one of the main things I'm seeing as I've been in this area of line of work is just the need for water and crops as we continue to move forward.
Well, that's really my next question. If you could elaborate,
Yeah.
is like, what is your biggest observation? What is the biggest challenge? We did a big piece on the price of beef, and it was like a myriad of things. And of course, the climate had a lot to do with it, but it was much more complicated than that. We don't have enough time, and we can go
Yeah.
into like what's happened to the livestock and all the things. But my point is, the climate is shifting, and whether or not you believe it, whatever you believe, we're here to support whatever beliefs you may have, is that that's impacting all of us every single day.
Yes, and that is the most that I love that you say that because I feel like we all agree that the climate is shifting and I think scientists do agree on that. I think a lot of people disagree on what's causing it to shift or how fast it's happening, but regardless, we're all on this planet together. So we should probably all start trying to maybe figure out something to do because it really is affecting our growing regions and the amount of food and the amount of water that we have access to. And we might not be feeling it right now, but our kids are going to feel it. And then their kids are for sure going to feel it. And so it's just there's a lot of moving parts. Like I said, it's very intricate. And instead of everyone getting so angry about it and fighting each other on what's causing it, I wish we could just start looking maybe above the situation and looking for different solutions
We
to.
absolutely have this. I mean, anything science related, we have the same conversation with vaccines and parents. Is that we're always like, let's take a step back and look at the science, and science is never settled, right? So then, how are we fighting about it if it's never settled? That's where I'm confused as a parent. Is that we all want the best for our kids, and so if are we getting to the solution? Are you finding solutions in your work?
Okay, working in the science world, I think it's hard because numbers can be pulled from anywhere. They are more malleable than someone who's not in math or science thinks. If you want to take off the top 10% and the bottom 10%, your numbers are going to look different. Do you want to take off the top 25, the bottom 25? So you can really present numbers to look almost any way you want. And that's the scary thing in this world of information. Everyone's having access to these massive data sets, and we're able to kind of show a lot of different things. But what are we trying to show at this point? Instead of trying to show what's happening, I feel like we should be looking at what's on the other side of this. Like, what can we be doing? We know we see these numbers. Instead of trying to bend them to say something specific, let's kind of, I don't know, work together and start moving forward because food and water are going to become a large problem moving forward.
Well, that was actually my next question is, as a parent, what worries you the most? Like, what do you want to tell moms and dads out there? Because, another thing my feed is getting blown up is the glyphosate and the chemicals and the dyes, and the conversation is so big. And mac and cheese has 36 chemicals, not 10 as we were growing up, or ingredients or whatever. So, My last question to you would be, sort of what keeps you up at night? You're a mother of three. I'm a mother of three, and our priorities have changed since we had kids.
Oh, most definitely. And once again, I think it has to do a lot with us having the phone, having access to so much information. Growing up, our my mom didn't know that having taquitos every day after school for a snack was bad for you. But now, I mean, we know that. And so we try to not do that. And we are exposed to so much more, not just like chemically, but also with information. And so I think as a parent, you just have to do the best job you can at filtering through what you think is important because it's going to be different for everybody, right? So I just think easing the stress in your home with focusing on what's important to you is probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah, and then, listening to conversations like this, so I learned a little bit more about cloud seeding, and then I can come to my own conclusions, and maybe I could look at the condensation in the sky and not think that it's aliens and chemicals being sprayed down on my skin, or maybe I can have a giggle that day and think that it is, and hope that
Maybe it is. Who knows?
maybe it'll make me younger, prettier, taller, and smarter. And so, if it does, spray away. Well, I'm
Yes.
so grateful for you, Kailey. You're our go-to meteorologist. I'm certain that we'll have you back as we continue to see through fact versus fiction. So thank you again.
No, thank you so much for having me.